Hello and welcome back to The Emperor's Tarot, a podcast where we talk about various topics relating to Warhammer 40k's tabletop game, or Games Workshop, or various other tabletop games if the topics ever come up. As always, my name is Alexis and I am joined by Riley.
Hello.
And Victor.
Greetings.
Now, you two, of course, have nicknames as Moap the Somnolent and Viggih the GM.
Yeah, we do.
But I felt a more personal taste was in mind for today. Also, it's Moap's birthday.
Aw, thank you.
So,
Yeah.
first off, happy birthday, Riley.
Thank you so much.
Happy birthday, Moap.
So, the topic that we have for today is the objective morality of the Imperium.
Right, are they the protagonists that they're portrayed as? But before we do that, we should probably go into the news.
Oh, yes, of course. So, what do you got for me?
Well, the first thing to note is that we got those, I'd say the thing that I would put the most attention on is those new undivided demon models.
Of course, you would go straight for the demons.
Yeah.
I do love demons, but those things are so cool, and undivided demons are kind of novelty. Up until now, we've only had Fury.
That is true.
Yeah.
Well, we had Bellicor.
That's true. We also had Bellicor, but it's really cool. They also...
Oh.
They kind of look like Bellicor when you bring that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have that kind of bigger, if Bellicor was shrunk and made more Fury-esque.
Yeah, you're right. They're a little more deformed than him, too. Oh, and that also brings up, we got the announcement of Apocalypse again.
Yes, all of these and more, which we'll go into in a bit, happened at this weekend's Warhammer Fest. Wasn't it last weekend?
It was like the past week, I would say.
Right. Yeah. Right. It has been come and gone some time ago, but yes, most of the big news will be coming out of that live blog, and we'll be referencing that.
I do want to say the biggest thing that I'm excited for is those chibi models. As you guys know, I absolutely adore chibis. I love them. I love them.
I think they are super cute. I'm definitely going to get the Inquisitor if I get one.
I'm thinking the Inquisitor and the Sister for me.
I don't like the Sister as much. I think the other two are kind of adorable. I'm not going to get the Assassin because skulls creep me out.
See, this is why you fell from the Imperium. Strictly that reason. Nothing else.
Listen, skulls are creepy.
It's why you can't fall to Khorne.
It's true.
Skulls for the Skull Throne. No, that's gross.
Ew.
Oh, there's the new Primaries Tank that looks exactly the same as the old one.
Well, actually, it has a different top to it. It doesn't have the indents for the side-mounted guns on the hull itself.
Oh, and yes, it's different.
Its turret is a bit different as well, and it was also brought to my attention that it's supposed to look like an Abrams tank.
Interesting.
Like it's a stretched-out version of an Abrams, and I thought that was really cool because they're going with a more modern tank feel. And at first I thought, well, that's silly because no tank actually has that many weapons on it until I started looking up modern-day tanks, and yes, we do. We do have that many weapons on them.
So they're very heavily armed. And I think that if they're going to shift towards using reality as a basis for where they're taking the artistic design, that's just going to make things look more appealing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, minus the whole grav plate thing, which makes it 40k.
Well, yeah, of course.
It's archaeotech. I ain't gotta explain it.
Nanomachines ain't gotta explain science.
Nanomachines, son.
And one of the things, the big reveal for the Adeptus Mechanicus' second transport ever.
And man battle tank.
Yep. Which I always thought the Onagar Dunecrawler was the main battle tankish thing.
It's more of a walker, closer to Dreadnought thing.
Yeah, that is true.
That's what I thought as well.
Yeah.
But
Let's
we do
see.
have the what is it? The landing ship of D-Day. That's what they look like. That's where they took the inspiration from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The amphibious assault vehicles. They do look cool, except although I wonder if they'll for some reason give those things amphibious.
Well, they took out the rule amphibious.
Oh yeah, the chimeras no longer have that because
Yep.
it never came up.
And
Yeah.
rough terrain doesn't impasse you unless it like physically stops you, like with a wall. So
Yeah, they probably simplified that away.
Well, yeah, I do agree with that. They did oversimplify terrain and everything.
I do think the kit looks cool. I'll be excited for when it comes out. I'd like to see the actual sprues to see what customization options it has.
Now,
Yeah.
I do want to bring up a point. I did say that this is the second transport that they've had because they do have the drill from Forge World.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
which was more of a let's give the 30k model some 40k rules.
Mm-hmm.
So that yeah, sure, it's nice and all that, and it's pretty much a reverse drop pod, and that's about it.
Yeah, I always thought it was a little bit silly. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, that's what the current one. I think it looks really stylish. To be honest with you, that's sort of the way I would describe it. But the open compartment does seem a bit silly to me. I hope the sprue has some option to close it.
You mean the grenade box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems
Yeah.
like a big oversight on the Mechanicus, but at the same time, the Skitarii run into battle with wooden weapons.
I do wonder if hey, that's Archaeotech. I'll have you know. I ain't got to
It's
explain.
literally wood, though.
It has wooden stocks on it. That's just classy.
That's silly. Like, they're the Mechanicus. They're supposed to be super technological advanced. And here goes
Yeah.
Jerry with his wooden rifle.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just plastic or some equivalent. That
they
looks
actually
like wood.
go out in the lore and state that it is wood.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm trying here.
in any case, I do so wonder if the transport will have the open topped rule.
I hope so.
Imagine
Now.
imagine having a Skitarii drive-by. That would be fun.
Oh my. That would actually be. Yeah, that would be interesting.
That would be. Hold on. Do heavy weapons on open top vehicle count as moving?
Yeah, they count as moving.
Ah, damn it.
Still
Well,
fire.
that is true. That is true.
At a
That will be
-1
fun.
ballistic skill.
That's not too bad.
No, so you're hitting on 5s with the Transarchubus. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's
So,
a fair price to pay for getting to hide inside the thing.
yeah. Can you shoot infantry in open top? I forget.
No. You have to
No.
kill the vehicle first.
Oh, sweet. So, in any case, moving on from the Mechanicus models, which I am excited for, this is more of a lack of representation, though it would be fun to see if anyone who went could tell me otherwise. On the role-playing game front for Games Workshop, there was a presence by Cubicle 7, who are the guys behind the latest edition of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, of which I have both core book and the starter set, reading through not as we speak, but right before. However, I will point out, and this is just pointing out to by lack of absence, is Wrath and Glory, which is the new 40k game, and there's been some deafening silence coming from those guys, which is unnerving to say the least.
Well, it's... Okay, can I be real?
Yeah.
That game is bad.
Well, we haven't even played it.
It's a D6 system, Victor. We both know D6 systems are not balanced.
Well, true. I have my own reservations about the system, though they are purely theoretical since I don't have any experience with it.
Fair
I'm
enough.
I'm not impressed. I specifically prefer D20 RPGs and D100 RPGs because they fall easily into percentages, so you can figure stuff out. It's very simple to set difficulty based on that, where with these, it's just... I don't know. I never was too interested by Wrath and Glory.
I don't
Me
like that you
neither.
take a Space Marine and put it on a team with a bunch of guardsmen.
Yeah,
'Cause-
and then you up the guardsman to be pretty much on par with the marine.
And it's one of those things, it's like, how does a GM properly balance that? Like, it's
Yeah.
really, really difficult. And I've run through scenario after scenario of trying to balance things like that for, like, Dark Heresy. Actually, we all have. We've all had our
Yeah.
difficulties with one character being powerful in a party and having to balance it out.
True.
I will say that the Dark Heresy system, Marines are still really, really powerful, mostly due to the fact that I took some from Black Crusade and pitted them up against super, super high level Dark Heresy characters, and they lost.
I mean, I've done the same thing, but I know how to beat Marines. And it's literally just stun locking them.
That's a bit more than just saying it.
Yeah, it's difficult, no question, but it's also one of those things. It's if you had one in the party,
Yeah.
it's a completely different ball game because now you have somebody with like an auto gun and somebody with a bolter and the ability to crush a human skull and eat it.
Oh yeah.
It's ridiculously hard to balance that. And Riley, you've had your own problems trying to balance an Ogren.
Yes, balancing the Ogren was interesting. Balancing a space stretch. But, I mean, that's the Wrath and Glory system, too. Even if you did balance it, in a way it would take away from Space Marines. I don't know. Again, I'm just gonna leave the caveat that I haven't played Wrath and Glory, so maybe it's just the bee's knees and we just don't know, but if it is, I haven't heard about it.
I will, at some point, want to test it out. But I think a buddy of mine is reading through the system, and he might want to run a game. I'll let him do it.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
But now,
all right.
Let's move on to our main topic.
Wait, there's a few more things that I just want to point out real quick.
Go for it.
Halflings are coming to Blood Bowl, yay, and Wood Elves, woohoo. Then we have some more Necromunda stuff, releasing more stuff, and the possible teaser for Adeptus Arbites.
Yeah, the Arbites teaser was interesting.
Yeah. Lord Helmar is mentioned by name in the teaser, and the name of the teaser even references that. And for anyone who doesn't know, Lord Gerontes Helmar is the planetary governor of Necromunda, so they are directly tied to him. So it is indeed Imperial law enforcement.
We also got the teaser of Aeronautica.
Yeah.
Yes, that I'm actually excited about. I'm hoping it's a full-scale game and not just an addition to Titanicus, but at the same time, I kind of do want it to be an addition to Titanicus.
I mean, why not its own thing where it's just flyers against each other?
I would like for the possibility of I would like for them to be on the same scale. For two reasons. One, because I don't want to have to spend $150 per Titanicus or per Aeronautica model. But also because if they did that and things work out with both Titanicus and Aeronautica, who knows, maybe Epic will get another launch.
Well, one of the fun things about the Titanicus line is playing it at full scale.
Oh gosh.
Like, Riley, we both saw that at Adepticon. That's what people do.
Yeah. I could see it.
So if they were to bring Aeronautica to Titanicus, which honestly, if you are going to bring aircrafts into 40K, one of their main target would be the big things.
It's true.
Yeah.
So it would actually be really cool to see, Titanicus expand and become epic again.
That's what I would love to see that. I would definitely get into it. I definitely plan to when they do announce Aeronautica, assuming they come out with a Chaos Fleet to start. I will get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, did we, as a final point, mention the new paint?
Oh yeah, let's talk about that for a second. These contrast paints. So
Yeah, there's like been talk on the Discord that they're not that special.
well, I haven't tried them out yet, and I definitely will at some point because it could be super cool, but it seems like a lot to promise, and it seems like a real instant solution. Of course, even in their own advertising, GW kind of has hinted at this isn't for your like high quality miniatures. This is for you need to paint an army tonight, tonight,
Yeah,
tonight.
I can
Yeah.
see this as being a good enough like infantry paint. As
Right.
in, yeah, like this is gonna be your cookie cutter standard stamp from the mold guardsmen and
Well,
tactical marines
notice how
and
they
all.
say. Sorry for cutting you off, but notice how
It's
they
okay.
say they get it to battlefield ready instead of pro painted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's true.
like three color like tabletop ready is probably what they're going for here because you put on the primer, then you put on the main color, and then you do the details, and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
True.
So, yeah, if it is only the base and the shade in one paint, that's probably worth the effort.
But at the same time, I'm gonna say this now. I'm disappointed. Not because of the contrast paints. I think they're amazing. I honestly, good job, GW. I want something that'll paint my armies fast. But you know what would have done that a little bit quicker? An airbrush.
Yeah, that was the rumor that was going about before this.
A GW airbrush would be so fantastic, but realistically, I think the reason that if they're not doing that, I would suspect it's because they're not able to get the quality that satisfies them yet. Because they have a very high class competitors and companies like, for instance, Badger when it comes to that. And GW is always been a market where when they set out, especially like with the Citadel line, they aim for the top. They have one of the best paint lines. They have one of the best brush lines. All of their
Ar-
product is very high quality, even if it's a bit pricey.
Arguably, I would say the detail on the models has consistently been going up, and I would say it is among the best.
I would agree with that. I would say that GW, Citadel, it's all very high quality. So if they're not giving us an air, I would suspect it's because they're not able to give us a quality of airbrush that they find satisfactory yet.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty
take your
easy to
time,
speculate.
GW.
Yeah, like speculating that they have probably been testing that out is probably an easy claim to make. But they may be, yeah, like Mope said, they may not be happy with what they have yet.
And they have to make it cost efficient. Because GW, unlike these other companies, where they make like a few hundred, GW would be making thousands.
That's true.
Yeah, they would like in order to like they have that many customers. Like pro painters go for airbrushes, and there's not that many. There's less of them than there are 40K players.
Yeah, there are. They could put out, and this is all just speculation, but if GW could put out a quality airbrush for who knows, even they could charge, if they can make any sort of affordable price, it could really change how we look at tabletop armies and like what the standard of painting for the tabletop is.
Yeah, it would be it would be the upping of quality for everyone.
Yes, it would be.
So this is probably a good step on the way there to get people just painting at least a base color, if nothing else, which is better than gray plastic.
Yeah, that's true. So for that regard, contrast paints, very good job. I would love to
Yeah.
see how they look. We'll see how much I make use of them myself because of whatever reason, but I'm sure that many people will appreciate them, and I think it's a very good idea.
If they make one for dark skin tones and light skin tones, I'm gonna buy them.
Hold on, let me check. I can see a bunch of colors here. Never mind. Most of them are obscured, but I think
Because
I
skin
see.
tones are one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
That's true, but that might be why if we don't have contrast paints for them yet, that might be why, because they might have done, again, testing with their skin tone contrasts and not been satisfied.
Maybe.
And with that, I think we covered pretty much the news-ish stuff.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff since last we recorded.
Yeah, there has.
It's true.
GW's been going a little bit overboard.
There's so many launches, but...
Our poor wallets.
So true.
I think between me and Moap, we ordered 3 Keepers of Secrets, a ton of new demons. I have so many out being painted right now. I painted a huge army of them.
I have 5 Keepers of Secrets staring at me right now on my desk. It's been crazy.
You absolute mad women.
Yeah.
Well,
and
in any case.
I'm trying to get my Hive Fleet up and going again. But I need... And actually, you know what? I want to ask the viewers this. I need pluck foam that's really good for Tyranids and can fit in a... wow, I can't remember the 720s company's name.
Battle Foam?
Battle Foam. Battle Foam's box. That is an affordable price. Because I need about 10 trays for all the monsters that I have.
Yeah.
Because I'm sick of my dumb Karen breaking.
I mean, they are Tyranids, they are spindly by nature. I feel your pain with my Mechanica stuff because it is so spindly and with antennae and...
Yeah.
It's the worst.
This is just one of the realms where I've finally conceded to, like, some models need to be just stored magnetically as opposed to foam. Like, for, like, tactical marines where they're holding their bolter across their chest, foam's the way to go. But for, like, a dynamically posed assault marine, don't put that model in foam. He will break.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Speaking of madmen and women, we were going into the main topic of morality in the...
Right.
Imperium.
So specifically, are the Imperium the good guys? Because within the setting, the Imperium is definitely portrayed as the protagonist.
Yes.
However, go ahead.
Being the protagonist, and I think I'm just piggybacking on your point here, they're not necessarily morally virtuous.
Well,
yes.
How morally virtuous do you have to be when you literally have angels?
Well, pretty damn virtuous, seeing how Celestine is quite the figure who just so happens to perform genocide and religious purgation wars.
It does also bring up the fact that the perception of an angel or a demon is based largely on where you're standing.
That is very true.
Lord air quotes.
Celestine is an angel to the Imperium, but an anathema to demons.
Indeed. Her emperor-given power is poison to them.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I'm pretty sure heretics and heretic studies don't like her either. So, well, the problem with putting any objective morality on the Imperium is, again, to take Moap's sentence of when she said it depends on where one is standing at the time, then, yeah, because we are uniquely disqualified when it comes putting moral judgments on the Imperium because we don't have to deal with orcs.
That is true. We also don't have to deal with demons in reality.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, so we could judge the Imperium by the fascistic tendencies that they have, and make no mistake, it is fascist, brutal dictatorship. But the difference being is that when the Imperium pumps out its propaganda, and it does so by the Cargo 8 truckload, it is kind of true. When the preachers preach about the horrors of the alien and the demon, they're not wrong. There are indeed malign forces out in the galaxy who would want nothing more than to see the souls of humanity eaten. So,
The
go ahead.
question is this regime the only one that could stand against those extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional horrors?
No, probably not.
If we take a look at the Tau Empire, for instance, and in before anybody says, "Oh, Tau weebs," and insert dumb meme here.
I was actually going to bring up the Tau too, but go ahead.
The Tau Empire has a caste system similar to that of the Indian culture, and they have, I would argue, a darker take on the galaxy than the Imperium itself. I would say that the Imperium is more morally just than the Tau Empire. And even so than the Eldar. Since the Eldar kind of birthed the most evil of the Chaos Gods into existence.
I will definitely concede that the Imperium is far more moral than the Eldar. The Eldar will openly admit to the fact that they are totally self-centered to the highest degree. Not only do they look at non-Eldar as less than people completely, which the Imperium does too back to them, I admit, but the Eldar also, it goes further that if you're a certain type of Eldar, you think you're better than the other Eldar. And then even within that, for instance, if we go to Craftworlders, who think that they're better than Exodites and better than Dark Eldar, or Drakari, excuse me, and now I'm talking about Asuryani. Even within that, one craft world thinks that their craft world is more important and better than the other craft worlds, and it goes from there.
They're very prideful species.
I would counterpoint that with the fact that even humanity does that, perhaps to an even greater extent, while the Eldar have this they have this, sure, prideful thinking and haughty disdain for the rest of the universe. They still kind of realize just how fallen they are.
There's a moral of self-sacrifice present in the Imperium, and even chaos humans to some degree of self-sacrifice that I just don't find within them.
That is true. They would rather sacrifice a billion humans before sacrificing themselves.
I mean, it was all the way up until your brain started stepping in and going, guys, we need to admit to our mistakes and help the Imperium.
Yeah, and before she could... the thing about... So the problem with painting lack of self-sacrifice to the Eldar, their sacrifice is much... the price they pay is much more, because once they truly die, as in no soulstone, no nothing, they're doomed to Slaanesh. The humans, the Imperium, not so much. They are protected by the Emperor, no matter what Moap will tell you.
Or they, if you go on the other writings, it's just that humans, their consciousness they don't continue to be conscious when their soul, after they die and their soul enters the warp and demons rip them to pieces. Eldar, unfortunately, are distinctly conscious for this process, and it's probably the worst thing imaginable.
Yeah, which is why they have have 3 separate cultures, all of which do everything they can not to have that happen.
Except the Exodites, they don't really care.
Yeah, they do. They have their world stones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the only ones who flirt with danger like that are the Harlequins, who might actually just be insane.
We can't tell. I haven't read enough Harlequin fluff to really get a grasp of them.
We'll spare any actual going into depth about theories like that for another time. But point is that yes, Eldar have a very good justified reason to be terrified of dying.
So, to go back to the Tau, I'm torn on the fact that the Tau are open for cooperation more so than the Imperium.
Well, I used to think that until I started reading more and more of the Tau lore. Their techniques are even worse than the Imperiums. Like when the Imperium sanctions a Xenos race, like
Jokaru?
the Jakaru and the Kroot, which the Kroot have...
Not so much with crew. It's like the least bad for the Imperium, but they still kill them.
Yes, but they kill them. What the Tau do is so much worse. The Tau sterilize them. The Tau use mind control technology. The Tau use brutal techniques on them.
On the humans that don't submit, yes, but not the ones that, like, there are humans that have...
Victor, in some of the lore, they even beat out they actually beat humans into submission and subject them to mind control to get rid of anything to do with the Imperium or the Emperor.
Yeah, that's those that resist, but there are, in one of the Caiaphas Kane's books... Actually, I will be right back.
Well, that aside, I will say one thing about the Tau in relation to the Imperium is the fact that, contrasted to the Imperium is it's a different social structure. So the Tau tend to exhibit more of eusociality, like what we see in like ants and wasps and bees, and like their naked mole rats are another one that do it. But is that necessarily evil? Because what defines those societies is a structured caste system, even where only some get to breed. And I don't think we would consider the society of ants evil just because most of them don't get to breed. In fact, it's considered to be the most advanced form of sociality. So in that regard, is what the Tau do really evil, or is it just an alien form of life? Which also brings up my point of, I think the Tau represent a very interesting aspect of 40k, because one thing we hear about is that there are tons of minor alien cultures that the Imperium just abolishes. They find them, and immediate contact is to eradicate them, which is kind of morally abominable. And Tau are in this unique situation where the Tau and their allies represent both a species and a conglomeration, an alliance of species that are in the process, I would say, of being exterminated by the Imperium. They've just been spared through various different means.
Well, yes. The Tau themselves have had their go at the Imperium, but the Tau... See, the reason that I would say the Tau are more evil, is because they're fully conscious and aware of what they're doing. But the Tau, in this sense, also respect the Imperium and respect the soldiers of the Imperium, including learning their cultures and everything. They even have studies on the different cultures of the chapters of Space Marine, which I thought was really interesting.
Right. But that's also, if we're just to lean back to the extra-dimensional horrors, it could be argued that the more knowledgeable state of the Tau Empire is a liberty afforded to them by the fact that they're not as easily corrupted by chaos. If you get too knowledgeable within the Imperium, demons tend to take an interest.
Yes, that is true. Knowledge is power, and you have to be strong to have it. Which is why
Right.
Which is why 40k does so much to limit the knowledge of demons to protect its citizens.
Right, because the average person, if they knew about demons, it would definitely shake them, and it could turn them upside. It could turn their worldview up. Whereas the Tau, they are able to look at these things more objectively because, well, they're just less susceptible to possession because their souls are very stale and don't taste good.
Not only that, they're not a very psychically in-tuned species yet.
Right.
Now, I do say yet because everything in 40k is evolving, and we have seen examples of Tau Psychers.
Right, and that is why demons don't like them as much too, is because, yeah, if you're not a Psyker, or you're not an evolved Psyker, then what do you have to feed a demon?
Yeah, you have thought, but it's not as much.
But I will say this, if we want to consider the Tau evil, and we're trying to justify the Imperium on the basis that the threats the Imperium face justify what they do, then the Tau get the same justification tenfold, because every threat the Imperium faces is inconsequential in comparison to the threat that the Imperium poses to the Tau. Because the Imperium most certainly will, if they defeat and assimilate the Tau, exterminate every single Tau. Whereas if the Tau did the same to the Imperium, whilst humans might not have full rights compared to the Tau, but then again, no one in Tau society really has full rights except for the ethereals at the top, and even then it's only the top ethereals.
Mm-hmm.
The humans would continue to be allowed to exist to some degree. The Imperium most certainly would not extend the same to the Tau.
Well, see, that's where I draw a gray line, because the Imperium has worked with alien races and has pardoned them before. Case in point, Gathering Storm.
Yeah, and then another one I think of is in the Titan graphic novel. They paired up with some Eldari Titans to fight off some Tyranids. But that also brings up the point that the Imperium really only does that when it's really absolutely out of absolute necessity.
Now, would the Imperium be able to learn from that, is my whole thing. And I honestly think yes. The Imperium has shown cooperation with the Eldar on multiple occasions, including actually knowing the whereabouts of Yvraine. Like, they know where Yvraine is.
I would put a caveat on that. I would say, so when Guilliman was revived, that changed the equation. Thanks to him, the Imperium has moved up on the morality scale. He just makes them better.
That's true. That's absolutely undeniable. Guilliman is much more morally upstanding. He's definitely been making the Imperium more moral as a result. Given it's been a slow process, and I'm sure Guilliman himself would do more if he could.
Except, he has to deal with the bureaucratic quagmire that is the Imperium, and things are slow.
Yeah, he's probably doing as much as he can without making things collapse.
True, the Order Kronos being the funniest example of that.
But
go ahead.
I won't say that Guilliman makes the Imperium good on a whole. I'd say he has the potential to eventually, but I would still say, even in the current fluff, that the Imperium's modus operandum, if you're an alien species and they conquer you, is going to be to eradicate you. Even if it's Guilliman who leads the crusade.
That is true.
True, and so in the sense that the Imperium is getting better, they can so easily slide back if Guilliman is lost, while unlikely, again, did happen, and there's nothing that says it can't happen again.
Fulgrim's still out there.
Yeah, but Fulgrim has a whole problem of dealing with Fulgrim.
As in,
there's multiple
look at
Fulgrims
me.
right now.
Yeah, he'll probably seek him out and kill him.
Hey, I'm sure Slaanesh will favor the one true Fulgrim, and Slaanesh's favor will be enough to make sure that he gets rid of the rest.
Or would Slaanesh keep both of them alive, indefinitely fighting?
An indefinite fight sounds more like something Khorne would enjoy, so I'm going to say no.
But it's ultimate duality, Moap. Good and evil.
Wow.
Kind of. We'll see, but I'm still... I don't know about that one as much. But my only point is that I do think that Guilliman could disappear.
Speaking of, to counter that duality point, why, oh why, in the Eye of Terror, would Slaanesh be okay with a Fulgrim that the Emperor made?
Probably would not be. When the Emperor tried to pull a fast one on the Chaos Gods, I think they all have a policy of, alright, don't trust him.
Yeah.
Except for Zinch, who's all like, yeah, we could trust him. No, we can't, but I kind of want to, because I want to see where this is going.
Zinch is convinced he's going to outplay him, and I mean, he will. The Emperor is just a corpse now. How can you not outplay a corpse?
I mean, the Emperor's bested both of them, all of them.
Except he didn't, and that's why he's a corpse. But that aside, back to the morality of the Imperium.
Yeah, what's a little transdimensional chess between godlike entities?
I mean, hey, even the companions think the Emperor is a god at this point.
They in the you're referencing our martyred lady there, right?
Yep.
It was a bit more nuanced than that. The custodian in that story, he has his ideas about what the Emperor is, and having stood so close to him, the idea of calling his power godlike is what he references. Godlike being the operative word.
No, he does say divine.
I would have to listen to it again, but yeah.
Yeah. It's just one of those things, like, that's how his armor turned black for a while. Standing in the presence of the Emperor and breathing in all of those fumes for 100 years.
They changed that lore, didn't they? As in, the custodians didn't paint it, their armor turned black because the Emperor is so powerful.
I'm sure that a 10,000-year-old corpse is pretty stinky. Who knows what it would do?
Oh.
I mean, after about 100 years, it would just be nothing but a skeleton.
Yeah, besides, I'm sure there's tech priests and other Mechanicus individuals that go about with sponges.
Oh goodness, I'm sure they do. And you know what the worst part is? I'm sure that they, like, are filled with a religious fervor at every moment. They're probably, like, just, like, lost in the devotion of the moment that they actually get to touch the Emperor.
Oh, well, they probably never touch him, but the sponges do, and they're probably made holy relics. Oh yeah, here's a lesser-known fact. You know how the Emperor's tears is a thing? They collect them and use them as hand grenades?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
Imagine what the Emperor's sweat can do.
But anyway...
We're getting off topic.
Yeah, to return to the point from earlier about how I think that the one thing I will say as a caveat, Tau being extremely justified, is that we also have to address the fact that perhaps a policy of xenophilia is actually inherently self-destructive on an interstellar scale, because the biggest threat to any civilization is another intelligent civilization. So the people in the Imperium who preach that we cannot tolerate the aliens because they will one day destroy us, while it might only be a maybe they will, the threat itself does bring up the possibility of the eradication of humanity. That's very real, which means that maybe the Tau's xenophilic policies are naive, which would go hand in hand with them being a young species.
Speaking of that naivete, here's a rather good theoretical ponderance for anyone out there. If the Tau were to have similar experiences to the Imperium, as in they finally figure out what demons are, as in the Tau Horus Heresy, meaning they have a civil war, demons get revealed to them, everything goes poorly, the question of their moral character would arise if they come out the other side holding on to the greater good. If they do, didn't they?
No, Farside Enclave, they split off.
Yeah, but that was not a civil war. That was just a split.
I thought the issue with the Farsight Enclave is that they drifted so far away from the Tau homeworld that the Ethereals lost control of them.
No, the Ethereals, so how it all happened is Farsight was on this world and he saw a demon sword and he's all like, wow, this is pretty neat, let me touch it. Or some type of demon artifact.
That's right. It was no power sword, it's the only Tau power sword and it's a demon weapon.
Well, originally it was a Satan phase blade, but then they got rid of that rule, but I digress.
That's another topic we'll talk about.
Yes, that's the inconsistencies in 40k lore, which might be the next week's episode. Anyway, one of the things that happened is he had a bunch of ethereals with him, because ethereals aren't just like there's one or two. There's actually like an entire society of them.
Right, they are a caste.
And the second the demons appeared, they ran directly at the ethereals, because the ethereals had the strongest souls, or may have been psychers controlling the Tau Empire.
They were the tastiest.
And Farsight was like, what are you guys hiding? And then started realizing that, hey, after defeating the demons and everything and actually learning what real close combat is, and he gained a preference for it, which also goes hand in hand with him actually getting possessed, but
true.
I digress. as this all started to happen, he started realizing that the greater good was a lie. And if you go into a lot of the 40K's lore, a lot of the Tau start to realize that the greater good is not what it's more of a hypnotic suggestion than an actual belief.
It does seem to be the angle they tend to portray it with.
Yeah, except the main difference between Farsight and Horus is that Farsight didn't declare war on the
He did,
Tau Ethereals. No, he didn't go to try and kill the Ethereal Supreme.
No, but he did go after the Tau Empire.
Did he, though? He just
Yes, he's had several
kind of
campaigns
left.
against them and then decided to become an outcast and only help them when they needed.
So, in that sense, they came better out of their civil war.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Tau Empire, all of it, every bit of it, is as big as one hive city.
I will say that if we're throwing stones at the Tau Empire for being based on a lie, then the Imperium has no room to criticize them for.
Well, the truth is subjective.
To a certain point.
Well, I mean, the truth is always subjective. To Horus, he saw a truth, but to the Imperium, he saw a different truth. And when he was revealed, when the Emperor, just before killing him, or some of the more original lore here, they're rewriting this, of course, he showed Horus what actually was happening to him, and Horus was like, I'm so sorry. And the Emperor killed his son and obliterated his soul. But now newer lore is probably going to retcon that.
Well, the fact that we can have a champion of the Imperium fall so far to chaos does demonstrate one of the horrors the Imperium faces in that regard, and that at any moment someone can betray them to chaos, which actually does go into the organizational structure of basically every military aspect of the Imperium.
Well, that's why they had to found the Inquisition to study these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if
It's
they
also-
had the Inquisition during the Heresy, this might have been prevented.
Maybe.
But the Inquisition also brings up the interesting point. Whilst we can, even if we concede that the ends justify the means for the founding of an order like the Inquisition, we also have to ask, does every Inquisitor act 100% in the most beneficial way or most morally just way? Putting aside, of course, renegades who started to fall to chaos, there are still some pretty questionable Inquisitors out there.
We could probably do an entire episode on that, considering
True.
how much stuff I have to say about that regarding Puritans and radicals, but we should probably not open that can
Does
of
Rosalina
worms.
count as a radical?
Yes.
Well, that depends on which faction she would belong to. I don't think she has a... Does Rosalina have a working theory on how she wants the Imperium to run?
She, in a sense, wants it to be more open, which would make her radical.
Well, let me rephrase the question. Does she think that the current Imperium should stay, is pretty much good as is, and she would do everything to keep its structures in place, or does she think that it needs to be altered in some way?
She does believe that it could be more open, but as is strong.
So she's probably mono-dominant then.
Yeah, but the order that I want her to belong to is radical.
There are some that might fit, but I'm honestly not sure how that would work. I would actually have to drill deeper on Rosalina's beliefs before I find out which faction she would belong to.
As a footnote to the listener, Rosalina is Alexis's character in Queen's Court on Sundays, who is an interrogator. So
That is true. She technically doesn't belong to a faction yet, but this is just me thinking out loud.
Well, I mean, we're getting towards the end of it, and unless something horrific happens, which could happen, but that aside, I do want to just say that while we could go into the factions and everything of the Inquisition, my point was there are many Inquisitors out there who overstep the boundaries of the office that's been given to them and abuse their power in horrific ways.
That is true.
If you're a radical and you seek to alter the current state of the Imperium, you would indeed overstep your bounds in the eyes of other Inquisitors. There is no bound they can't overstep regarding the rest of the Imperium.
Well, let's again just to say that again. Let's put radicals aside because of the whole. We're not going to touch the question of chaos's morality, but I'm talking strictly about Puritans, and there are horrible Puritans.
Inquisitor Dark Horse.
Hey,
Dark Hammer.
Yeah. Then again, like the idea of purging psychers and anyone really and declaring exterminatus is 100% within their purview. It is up to other Inquisitors to put judgments on them.
Well, that's why there's a branch of the Inquisition that studies the actions of the Inquisition.
Yeah, that is true.
The point is that inevitably an organization with the only oversight coming from its own organization is going to inevitably lead to power abuses. The only reason that the Inquisition, I would say, is not wholly been corrupted at this point by that is because of the religious fervor that's present in Puritans.
Well, also the fact that they are decentralized. There is no head inquisitor, as in guy in charge of the entire thing, while the representative is a figurehead who mostly just sits on the Council of Terra. He's not in charge of any other inquisitor.
Which brings up another interesting point. The decentralization of the Imperium leading to an actual lack of the Imperium's ability to maintain peace within its own. And there are tons of interplanetary wars within the Imperium, so the justification that it's trying to unify everyone definitely can't be applied, but even furthermore, the idea that it's trying to protect everyone also can't really be applied, because largely the Imperium will, mostly for like the High Lords of Terra, expect and will allow these inter-imperial conflicts so long as it doesn't hurt their bottom line too much.
Yeah, because war between planets does not fall within the responsibility of a planetary governor.
Well, it's one of those things is they're having their wars, but the Imperium is still protecting them from the information at hand. They're still protecting them from the knowledge of demons. They're still protecting them, and they can go and get those planets back. They just need a crusade to go and get it back. And in current timeline, we see that everybody in the Imperium is trying to get back the lost planets.
That's true.
That are lost to the Maledictum.
Yeah.
I will say, however, that even with the Maledictum splitting the Imperium in half, I don't think the Imperium failing has much basis on its moral standing. It does bring into question that if we're going by the basis of justifying them through the ends justify the means, that, well, this is the end we ended up with, and the fact that they failed does bring them into question.
Not the end that they were going for. The end is the complete conquest of the Milky Way.
Right. It's not this the fact that the Imperium split in half was not a failure of Imperial society. It was a loss to chaos.
No, that was a success of Abaddon.
Yeah,
true. It was the Imperium lost to chaos, and they cannot be blamed internally for that.
No. So, did we reach a conclusion here?
I think we're rounding up to a conclusion.
The one thing that I do want to say, though, is they have been going for 10,000 years.
Mostly stagnating and getting worse, but yeah.
Getting worse, yes, but 10,000 years of this religious dogma ruling them, and it worked. Like, you can't say it didn't work because the evidence is right there in your face. It did.
It's a very good point, and when we consider even the most successful civilizations in our history, they at most, even with the most generous estimates, our longest civilizations are lucky to last longer than 1,000 years, and the Imperium has beaten that tenfold.
Like, their religious dogmatic views, though barbaric by our standards, is what's keeping them going. So
it's also important to bring up that at this point they are also much more long-lasted than the Tau.
Mm-hmm.
True.
So they have methods of dealing with the evils that they face. And they do work. Like, religious belief does work against demons.
It's undeniable.
Even if it is a false religion, it still works against them.
Though, then again, how do you represent how do you put a morality claim on a religion? Well, through its actions, yes, but how do you separate Imperial war from its religion? Its religion is war.
I think largely when it comes to issues on this scale, it boils down to the fact that it really does come down to that if we're going to justify the Imperium, it's the ends justify the means. And the end that we're aiming for is survival. And the idea is, the Imperium is surviving.
True. And if you have to sacrifice everything for that until nothing is left but survival, then you don't really have anything else.
I mean, the sacrifices are there, but it is all in turn for the survival of the entire species.
It's true, and like I said, sacrifice is something that humanity is very good at.
Yeah.
It's a scary thought to think that they have to sacrifice people in order to save more people. It's not something that we as just normal people can even contemplate.
Well, another example of that is I like to poke jabs when you say the Emperor protects, and I say, what about the billions of guardsmen? But if it wasn't billions of guardsmen, it would be hundreds, thousands of trillions of helpless civilians.
Mm-hmm. So, in the end, I think we've come to the conclusion that they are sort of the good guy.
On the scale, they are better than the alternative.
If we're coming to the conclusion, I'll go ahead and be honest. Of course, the Imperium is evil. Ignorance is literally evil.
Well, it's not that they're ignorant; it's that they know, and they're trying to keep that knowledge away from hapless children who can't defend themselves.
The only way forward is enlightenment.
Not when that enlightenment is demons.
I don't know, reality might be horrific, but if you want to live, you gotta accept.
I can't justify that against a demon.
So, I know we were wrapping up, but this is literally, we are dealing with the same problem that the Emperor dealt with when it came to the Primarchs. Could he trust them to know? In the same way that the people that know about demons fear that the rest of the Imperium can't be trusted with it. And look what happened.
It's a very good point. That fear of telling his sons led to them feeling betrayed, which led to them turning to chaos, which then once chaos gets its hooks in you, once we've got you, then we get you more, and then, you're standing before your father crying because you've destroyed the universe.
Oopsie daisy, my bad, Dad.
Yeah.
Please kill me, Dad. What have I done?
So, the Horus Heresy is the current Imperium in microcosm.
Yes. Although, if you do notice, a lot of the guardsmen regiments do know of chaos and don't fall.
Speaking of which, I have the latest version of the Imperial Infantryman's Handbook. They mention dark forces and corruption. They don't specifically mention chaos. In fact, it's in the Xenos chapter. So, the handbook, while full of propaganda, does warn them about the nasties that are out there.
Doesn't specifically name demons, of course. I think I would assume it's referring more. Yeah, I would assume it's more referring to like mutation. But I will definitely say as my concluding statement that I definitely think the Imperium is far more evil than the equivalent in chaos. But I don't think either of you are going to agree with me, and I understand people who don't.
Only to a point. I only recognize that not keeping the Imperium would turn everything to chaos. Lowercase chaos.
I like how there's a difference between lowercase and uppercase chaos, by the way, and that is an actual thing.
Yeah, you have to specify it.
Anyway, guys, I think we are at our conclusion with one maybe, one yes, and one no.
Perfect.
I guess everyone will just have to decide for themselves.
Hey, it's perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
And as all things should be, one day it will just be devoured by Tyranids.
No.
Not if we all band together under chaos, again, sending chaos god, and if we
Can we just agree that Tyranids are inherently the bad guy of 40k because there is no reasoning with them? They're just evil.
I mean, isn't everyone the bad guy in 40k?
Pretty much.
Yeah, but everybody else has moral grounds to stand on. Tyranids are like, I'm gonna eat you.
Yeah, they're just more blatant about their aggressive expansionism.
I don't know, I can sympathize with them. The outsider wants to take a nap.
They devoured the outsider. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Emperor's Tarot podcast. Keep in mind, this is a bi-weekly podcast that first appears on the Patreon channel. If it is a week late, it's because we're trying to get guests, and guests organized is very difficult, so I do apologize about this one being late. But next week, we have our topic. We are ready for this, and it is going to be amazing. I want to thank Moap and Riley, Moap and Victor for joining me today. Dang it, I still didn't get it right.
Well, thank you either way.
Same here, and stay tuned, everybody, for the next exciting episode
of Emperor's Tarot. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-da-ba. Okay, I'll go now. Anyway, love you guys. Bye.